Hey everybody, Rob Thompson with At Rob Thompson Live. Today's special guest is Joe Galat, president of American Youth Football. Joe spent the majority of his career, legendary coaching career at Yale. I forgot to ask you about Yale, Joe. I'm a New Haven guy, so not Yale-y, but
Oh, that's great, Rob. Good to
yeah.
know.
Joey, I know Buddy Amendola and all those guys. Great people.
The Italian connection is alive and well.
Oh,
Sabina Carmcosa still reports to the office daily.
he does.
That was one of the better highlights of my career.
Yeah, wonderful place. Great pizza, Joe. There's great pizza there in New Haven.
That's for sure.
And then you spent time at Kentucky and Youngstown, and then you were with the New York Giants and the old Houston Oilers, correct?
Correct. One of my other stops along the way was coaching under Bo Schembechler at Miami of Ohio, my alma mater, and that was indeed an experience. I tell people that Bo slowed down when he got to Michigan, and that raises a few eyebrows, but it is the truth.
Well, I thought that is the coaching tree, isn't it? There's a lot of great.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that one. And then you were in a Hall of Fame there as well?
Yes, I am, and I'm very proud of that. One of the great memories I have is that my father, while he was still alive, was able to attend the Hall of Fame, and the fellow that did the emceeing that night was Ara Parsegian, and that was one of my father's big heroes. You know, as a Notre Dame coach and as a Miami of Ohio coach, Northwestern coach, Ara was one of the top guys in the profession.
Awesome. There's something about those Ohio guys. They're just blue collar, great people. There's no gray area. It's all black and white there, isn't it?
It's all corn fed.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad's a Cleveland guy, so I had no choice but to grow up with work boots on.
You got a great background. Cleveland and New Haven. It doesn't get any better than that.
No. The honest truth somehow always comes out in everything, Joe, whether people like it or not. But then you went up and spent some time up in God's country, up in Vancouver area and Montreal. Awesome.
Yeah, we sure did enjoy the Vancouver area. It was what they call it at that time was supernatural, and that whole advertising line that you can swim, ski, and sail the same day. It holds up.
Yeah. Well, better than LA because they try to say the same thing. How about so how did you transition over to you were with CBS Sports as well?
I did. When I left the BC Lions, I got a call that they wanted me to do some color work for CBC. The sports network that they do in Canada is government subsidized, so it involved a 30-man staff. Whenever we traveled with all of the executives, and it was an experience that I'll never forget, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. One of the commentators that we worked with was a legend. They have more than covered every CFL game, and I can remember there were different occasions when we would go coast to coast. We would cover a game, say in Montreal, and then the next morning we would travel over to Vancouver and cover that night game. So yeah, it was extensive.
Wow! And how long did you do that for?
I did that for 2 years. And I loved every minute of it. One of the sports writers said that I was the equivalent of the John Madden of Canada, but I saw what John Madden was making, his salary. I fell a little short in that respect.
Well, I'm sure if they were going to have a video game named after anybody in Canada, Joe, it would have been you.
Yeah, that would be nice.
How about and so then you went over, you jumped over to the dark side and went to corporate America field turf?
Yeah, it was something that I had always talked about giving back. And I had a personal friend who sort of worked out of his garage in developing this product. And he made friends with a couple tennis people, tennis pros. And they looked at this thing and they said, we need to develop something that will act like grass, but will be safer. And guess what? They came up with a product that had 35 patents called Field Turf. It was virtually unknown in 1999. It just went viral is the best word, because it's probably installed in 23, 24 NFL teams, their indoor facilities, their stadiums, maybe 55 Division I colleges, and a raft of high schools. And the interesting thing about the high schools is they can do the lining for different sports. So they can play soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, and you just have different colored lines that you adhere to on those games. So it really was safe. It was a better product, much safer. It had a rubber component to it. So it did have a little bit of give, and it didn't do the foot lock that was so troublesome when you had AstroTurf.
Right.
So we just had great success, and it went fantastically well. And like all good things, we got a major company, KKR in New York City, that came in and purchased the company, and our CEO passed away shortly after that. So it's all good things come to an end, but it is an amazing product, and it was a great ride, and I enjoyed it.
It's amazing how timing in life is just everything half the time, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We were there at the right time.
Mm.
But actually, John Gilman was the CEO. His objective at that time was to put the field turf on the map and to be the leader in the industry. And he actually accomplished that before he passed away.
Oh, a great story. Yeah, he did. Seems like that's the norm now with especially high school and college sports is field turf. Definitely a brand.
My favorite field turf story is that Howie Long, who I coached way back when he was in high school at the football camps, Howie Long and John Grisham, the author, they both were lining the fields in Charlottesville, Virginia. They looked at each other and said, why we do this every week? And Howie said, yeah, I know somebody at Field Turf. And the rest is history.
Wow. Unbelievable. And I mean, it used to be, everybody used to call it AstroTurf for years. Now the next generation only knows it as Field Turf. So
isn't that interesting how they have those generic names? They don't really know what the product is. Anything that looks green now is called Field Turf.
I think the first time I ever played on AstroTurf was at University of Pennsylvania. It was a preseason game, and the field had like 110 degrees, and we had to tape our fingertips because the field was so hot to touch. I'll never forget that. Rob,
that was like I coached there. That was like painted concrete at Franklin Field.
Oh, it was brutal. It was brutal. You could play in dress shoes and be okay in that field. So
yeah.
How did you get from that part of it in corporate America with field turf to come over to American Youth Football?
Well, I always was involved. Actually, I was a trustee at Pop Warner way back in the 70s, and went along with them ironically, to the Senate. The United States Senate had a subcommittee meeting to determine whether or not they would give Pop Warner an exclusive charter. And at that time, they were very hospitable, but at the end of the meetings, they said, this is still America, and we don't feel that any one group should be given an exclusive charter. Mm-hmm. So ironically, 20-some years later, I'm one of the other guys.
And what is it? How long you been with the organization?
Well, we started in 1996. While I was involved, in coaching, and then it carried over into when I was involved as well in field turf. So 1996, it's our 20th year its 20th season this year. So we're really pleased with the growth that we've had and the kind of people that we're affiliated with.
How many players, coaches, cheerleaders are part of this?
You know, they always try to come up with some sort of a figure. We're close to 1 million by using the different multiples. We have 23,000 teams, and whether or not that equates to 30 kids per team or 20 kids per team, and then coaches, team moms, and parents, we think we're very close to, say, 800,000 kids. Wow. And then you take into account the team moms, parents, coaches. So, you know, we're well over 1 million people who are actively involved and helping us get the job done.
Are there parts of the country that, you know, obviously this being a national organization, is there parts of the country that are, you know, stronger than others, or do you see trending in geographic areas?
We have pretty much paralleled what the population is. You know, if you did a census and you looked at how many teams were in each of the regions, we have 9 regions, and we also have an international division. But we've paralleled the coast. You know, East Coast, West Coast is the majority of the teams. And then Texas is coming on really strong. We've seen good growth the past few years in what we call our Central Midwest, in St. Louis, Kansas City areas. But the old traditional population, marketing, NFL markets, that all really parallels what our membership is.
Gotcha. And what do you find that is the biggest challenges you guys are facing as an organization? Is it reflective of where youth sports is headed? Is it just folks? I know I'm asking 3 questions in one here, but is it? Do you find challenges with you know, parents now kind of with kids starting earlier, the physical part of it, or is it shifting to other sports?
You know, Rob, you just hit the nail on the head. The challenge is the parents, educating the parents. There are so many people that, you know, they'll look on the internet and see all of this magic, mystical way to get your child a scholarship. You know, college expenses are being what they are nowadays. You know, as you're talking $200,000 to get a kid through school, and the parents naturally would gravitate to that. And when people sell the fact that they can get your son a scholarship, all he has to do is come to this 2-day camp, you know, that really doesn't help the sport, and it doesn't help the athletes. Parents need to know that maybe their child is not going to be an NFL player, a number 1 draft pick, or a Division I scholarship athlete, but that doesn't mean there's not a tremendous value in their participating in a great sport like football or like cheerleading. The pressures that they have to go through, the dedication of you know, really hard work, and it's not fun. And if we can find people now that understand there is a pay ahead, you got to pay ahead before you can collect. And sports traditionally are not much fun, but the results and winning, that's great. Winning is great, but it doesn't come easy. So if we can sell that, and just the fact that they're learning life skills, I think we would solve the biggest problem in sports. I have a lot of respect for anybody who spends time, that much time, as much time as does require to be a coach and to be a team mom, to be a manager. It's very difficult, and it's not very rewarding. That's why we do in the middle of our national championships, we honor, we call it American Youth Football and Cheer Hall of Fame, and we honor about 6 members each year that have dedicated their lives over 25 years as a minimum to youth sports.
That's amazing. I know I talk about a lot, and with the articles that I write about the difference that coaches make in kids' lives, and I know that, you know, there's just so many parents that are blinding to the fact that these are volunteers. They're giving their time to others and serving others. And their reflection, I saw this great piece one time. It was a sign on an event that says your ability or inability of a child is not a direct athletic ability of a child is not the direct reflection on a parent. However, your child's inability to be a good teammate, to be respectful, to be coachable is a reflection of you as a parent. And I just think that just holds so true in this, where, they lose track. I think parents lose track of that because they think if their kid's not good, it comes back to them, athletic.
Right.
And but I think you touched on something, and I think that was pure genius is the fact that what the sport will do, because it is unique than any other sport. And when you play the sport, the life lessons that you learn. I talk about my Pop Warner coaches all the time, and I coached youth football and I coached high school and college football too. And I just know that the characters and the influence that these guys have on your life, just not as from what you said, the sacrificing to putting in the extra effort. And it is a 12-month sport, regardless of however you cut it, from just preparing to play those 10 weeks. But it breaks down racial barriers, your teammates, regardless of their background, economical, social, cultural, there's no color when it comes to playing the sport and your teammates later on in life. When you get older as an adult and all those influences that may come in there, but sports breaks down everything, and it creates such an equal playing field. And I'm sorry to go on such a rant, but you just touched on something that I'm passionate about. So
we have an alliance with the National Football League's Greater Game Project. And Matt Burke, who was a Harvard graduate and 14-year NFL veteran, held the Super Bowl trophy when Baltimore won 3 years ago. Matt Burke is the leader in that, and he wants to take that attention away from a lot of people talking safety and all of the bad things that can happen to an athlete. Never mind what you see on the internet with kids doing. What do they call it? Crazy games, no helmets, riding skateboards up over steps and stairs. All of those crazy things. Nobody ever talks about the safety of that, but they do talk about safety of football, and football's under attack in that respect. But we've really gone on the other direction and trying to sell, is it worth the risk? Everything's a risk. You go out in an automobile or you walk down the street, you're at risk of something. I just heard an interesting statistic that the media would love to play up the shark attacks. And annually, there's about 6 people that die of shark bites each year. But there's over 100,000 people that have died every year on hippo attacks. We don't hear about that. Those hippos are really dangerous because you don't see them, and then all of a sudden they open that big mouth in the water. You're in trouble. So the risk is what we should talk about. And is it worth the risk? If my child is not playing sports, I wonder what he is doing. Right. So that's the evaluation and the balance that we have to find.
Yeah. Well, thank God there aren't wild hippos in Saratoga, because I'm sure they would. And so, who said the greatest line ever is, we talked about before, Slick Eisman. And I was visiting with him down in Tampa, and we're sitting out at the VFW, and he said to me, "Rob, the thing about it is in Florida, once you get into the water, you become part of the food chain." So,
I think we miss some of those characters nowadays. We got to bring them back.
There's no doubt about it. The simple logic, guys, they sum up things pretty quickly, So Joe, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about the business model, revenue, just how you guys drive as a business, because you're still an organization that needs cash flow. How does it work on your side, if you don't mind sharing with us?
I think it's become a hosting and a sport event. We all should recognize it. It's become a very competitive business. Look at what's happening across the country. There are sports facilities coming in. And I'm probably got a better view of that because when I worked for Field Turf, There would be
Mhm.
these huge multiple sports facilities. And basically you break it up into either diamonds or you talk about rectangles. So,
Mhm.
the diamonds, pinwheel type facilities for softball and baseball, incredible, the amount of those being built. And the other sports, when you talk about lacrosse, soccer, you can convert those fields. The rectangular fields can be converted to almost any sport. And I've even seen facilities that were built where the outfield could be a rectangular field. So there are facilities going in across the country, and the reason for that is the sports travel industry. And people have learned that
Mhm.
if you play, if you stay to play, which means the hotels have more heads in the beds, and you require that those
Mhm.
athletes have to stay in hotels. Remember when you and I were young, Rob? Well, you weren't. You probably didn't do what I did. We used to travel,
Mm.
and we would stay with somebody else's family, which carried its own risks depending on what kind of cook the mother was. But we we never, yeah, we never had that, these plush, nice hotels to stay in, and all of the facilities and the hot tubs, to go into at night and replenish your body. We have in our day, just parents would open their doors and bring in the kids, and they would stay and then have a game and go home. But now you've got all of these amazing facilities, and obviously with the facilities comes great accommodations. So that stay to play is here to stay.
Do you find with your tournaments and your regionals, your nationals, are you able to tap into grants from sports commissions for that head and bed business model?
Well, I think even in Experience Kissimmee, which is just outside of Orlando,
Mhm.
that example is interesting because originally it was a, what would you call it, a government organization, like the um, sports federation.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys are going to sort of a semi-private venture. So I do see that trend that there are people who are in it to make money, to get more people involved, and you have to acknowledge what their goal is,
Mhm.
and then you have to work with the facilities on the expenses. One of the things in football, you convert a lot of soccer fields, so it does
Mhm.
require lining the fields. It requires uh, down and distance markers. It requires your goalposts and those sort of things. People are becoming more and more in tune to the fact that they can have a facility, especially in the Sun Belt, in warm climate. They can have 12 months of a year, because some people do it on vacation time for the
Mhm.
schools. Some people do it more when there's a downtime in the Chamber of Commerce tells you that there's not many hotels being used at such and such a date, so those facilities are open. And I see more and more of that.
This is the 20th anniversary, right, of
Right.
American Youth Football. You have registered this year 23,000 teams, over close to 1 million participants, from coaches, cheerleaders, parents, administrators. That's a huge number. Huge.
Yeah, it really is. And like all coaches, you and I both know what we need. We need a good team.
Mhm.
And I have a great team. I've got excellent people that have done just an amazing job in their local communities, and that's how they moved up. They got battlefield commissions. When they did a great job in their local communities, we would ask them to come on board in the national level. And we've got about 10 people that have had all of that kind of experience just from their own communities, on the regional level, and then now on the national level, and they are good. And I'm just the cheerleader.
Well, you're one heck of a cheerleader. I want to see some pom poms and a skirt on you, Joe. So,
I'll do
talk.
I'll do it if I have to.
Oh, me too.
Leadership
Believe me.
leadership is doing what you got to do. You got to do it,
Right.
right?
Just make it happen. if there's any advice that you would give to our listeners, young professionals, people coming into the business, people that have been in the business, but what is that advice that, you experience so much in your career, and you're at that point now where, from coaching, administrative, and sales, and running a massive, one of the largest youth organizations in the country. What's your advice for people getting into the sports industry now?
Well, I have 11 grandchildren, and,
Wow.
and I would look at it the same when anybody wanted to enter into the sports industry profession. I would look at that the same as what I give advice to my grandchildren. And that would be, when it all boils down, it's going to end up being your personal relationships. That is paramount. And the more things you can do, the more valuable you'll be to that organization. And if you can always stay ahead of your pay scale, if you can always do more, if you can be of more value than what you're getting paid, you'll be successful.
Awesome. That's perfect, actually. That's the first time I've heard that explained that way. And Joe, I tell you, I'm just so honored to have you on here and get a chance to talk to you after all these years since the first time we met, when I was just trying to figure out my way in this business. And what I have learned a lot, and you just said it, was relationships matter more than anything. And also, it's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you. And
yeah.
I just find that I got to that point too, where, making a difference in serving others, and helping people along the way, like this right here, is absolutely free to anybody. I wish that this technology was available, or some type of mentorship was available when I was coming out, because I had no clue what I wanted to do in this business. I thought I was going to be a ball coach my whole career. Thank God, because I would never have made any money doing it. But,
yeah. Well, Rob, as you know, it wasn't about money for
Yep.
you in the beginning, and it still isn't. It's
Right.
about the service you're giving to other people. And I commend you on being on the cutting edge of the technology, and keep it going, and we'll help you in any way we can.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe. And next time I'm down, you're down in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area?
Miami, yes. Yes, come and see us.
Well, I definitely come and see you. And Joe, anybody that wants to volunteer, help, be part of American Youth Football, just give them some information on how they get in touch with, reach out to your team.
You can go to AmericanYouthFootball.com, and you search what you're interested in. If you would like to volunteer, we have certainly opportunities there. If you'd like to look for a career, we have opportunities there. So AmericanYouthFootball.com, and then when you use the search, whatever, volunteer opportunity, employment opportunity, it'll be there for you.
And then if there's anybody that are listening here and watching this video, if I'm a sponsor of a brand and I want to reach kids U8s to U14s, both cheerleaders, players, and parents, is there someone internally that you would connect them to for sponsorship opportunities?
Yeah, that would be the same method. You could get in touch with us by email.
Yeah.
Or you can call 305-535-6591, and we'd be glad to talk to anybody that would like to get their products in front of the kids.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much, Coach. Coach Galat, I appreciate it. I appreciate all your time and sharing us your experience and your wisdom. And I hope that we could connect soon and live in person.
Thank you, Rob. I'll look forward to the next time we meet.
All right, Joe. Thanks so much, Coach.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.